and believe it or not, nose breathing. I want to show you something else about nose breathing, and this can be particularly helpful for people who have breathing problems in the chest, particularly bronchitis or asthma. And I'll give you the story of this professor. This Professor Buteyko was a mechanic in the First World War, and he was a very clever mechanic in the Russian army. He knew engines, so he knew how to fix them. Doesn't that make sense? What's the good of having a mechanic fix your car if he doesn't even know how the engine works? And when he came out of the war, he analysed. He thought, if I knew how the body works, I think I could fix the body. So he went to train as a physician, a doctor. He became a professor. And he tells the story one night, because sometimes those poor doctors, they're on 24/7 call when they're training. So one night he looked in the mirror, or was the reflection of a door, and he was shocked at what he saw. He was overweight. His jaw was just hanging down. He looked terrible. He got a shock, stood up, closed his mouth, put his shoulders back, and that reflection was a confrontation to him. And so he started to breathe differently. He started to breathe only through his nose and not through his mouth, because the drop of the jaw shocked him. And he started to realise the importance of nose breathing. And he came across a man with an asthma attack one day, and he told the man to close his mouth. And he told the man to hold his breath. And within half an hour, the asthma attack had eased. So that's when he went to the drawing board. And that's when he discovered the wonders of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, as I mentioned in an earlier talk, and we talked about it a bit yesterday, you need carbon dioxide to get oxygen. Remember the 4 docking stations on the hemoglobin? 4 molecules of carbon dioxide are necessary to pick up 4 molecules of oxygen. 2 molecules of carbon dioxide, you're only going to get 2 molecules of oxygen. And remember, in the cell, if the cell's got oxygen, we've got 18 times more energy coming out of that cell. And he discovered the nose. You see, mouth is for talking, mouth is for singing, mouth is for eating, for drinking, no, nose is only for breathing. Mouth is not for breathing. So last time I had a cold was May last year in Germany, and I decided to test and only nose breathe with my cold. Could I do it when I had a cold? Well, I had to have about 10 tissues in my pocket when on my morning walk. And I nose breathe through my whole cold. Because when you force yourself to nose breathe, it opens up. Even a deviated septum can open up. And please, I would never have an operation to open the back of my nose. When you understand that all you have to do is nose breathe, and it will naturally open it up. But what Professor Buteyko found, not only that when you nose breathe, you maintain correct carbon dioxide levels in your blood, enabling you to pick up oxygen, he discovered that carbon dioxide is a bronchodilator. So what's a bronchodilator? A bronchodilator is something that opens the bronchioles, which are those little, you've got your trachea and it splits into 2 lungs, goes down to smaller and smaller bronchioles. And what happens with asthma is they swell. So it's very hard for air to go in and out when someone is in an asthma attack. And so the drug usually of choice, well, it used to be, was Ventolin. And Ventolin is a bronchodilator. Ventolin opens the capillaries, or if it's quite serious, I'll put the person on a steroid, even a prednisone or cortisone puffer, and that gets the inflammation down, which opens the bronchioles, when really all the person has to do is hold their breath. Not forever, of course. We need air. But if you Google the Buteyko method of breathing, so Professor Buteyko he's died quite a few years ago now, but his method of breathing is so successful. And I've spoken to many asthmatics who've got off all their medication by implementing the Buteyko method of breathing. Now, hospitals used to give classes, maybe 4 times a year. You go to a class and you might go for a week where they show you the Buteyko method of breathing. Yes, usually we should breathe long, slow and deep, always through the nose, but he shows that when someone's having an asthma attack, if they hold their breath, it'd be like 5 seconds in, hold for 5. 5 seconds out, but only let little bits out because you want to hold your carbon dioxide. And when it's time to bring the air in, it's just just little bits. So you're raising your carbon dioxide levels in your blood, and that relaxes smooth muscle, which is what surrounds the bronchioles, relaxes them and opens them, and the person can start to breathe. So medically, it is acknowledged today as a very effective way of controlling someone who's in an asthma attack, someone who's in a crisis there.
What is Buteyko breathing? Buteyko breathing is a therapeutic method designed to help individuals improve their breathing patterns. Developed in the 1950s by Dr. Konstantin Buteyko, a Russian physician. This technique focuses on reducing hyperventilation and improving carbon dioxide levels in the blood, which can help manage respiratory conditions like asthma. The science behind Buteyko breathing, the method, is based on the principle that many chronic respiratory issues, including asthma, are linked to dysfunctional breathing, particularly overbreathing or hyperventilation. Overbreathing's impact: when you breathe too much, you lose excessive carbon dioxide CO2 from the blood, leading to narrowed airways and reduced oxygen delivery to cells. CO2's role: maintaining optimal CO2 levels helps relax smooth muscles in the airways and improve oxygenation of tissues. How Buteyko breathing helps with asthma. The technique has been shown to reduce asthma symptoms. By teaching individuals to breathe more efficiently, it reduces the frequency and severity of asthma attacks. Improve control over breathing: it helps manage panic or stress-related overbreathing that can trigger symptoms. Decrease reliance on medication: many people report needing fewer bronchodilators or inhalers after consistent practice. Boost quality of life: better breathing means better sleep, less anxiety, and improved daily functioning. Core techniques of Buteyko breathing: here are some of the key exercises in the Buteyko method. Nasal breathing: always breathe through your nose, even during physical activity, to filter, warm, and humidify the air. Nasal breathing helps maintain better CO2 levels compared to mouth breathing. Breath control and reduction: purposefully reduce the depth of your breathing to create a slight air hunger, which helps your body adjust to higher CO2 levels. The control pause test: measure your ability to hold your breath after a normal exhalation. A longer pause typically indicates better respiratory health. How to do it: sit comfortably, exhale normally, and hold your breath while timing how long you can hold it before feeling the urge to inhale. Healthy breathing often correlates with a control pause of 40+ seconds. Breath holding exercises: hold your breath for short intervals to train your body to tolerate higher CO2 levels. This can help improve oxygen efficiency in your body. Relaxation breathing: focus on slow, gentle, and rhythmic breathing to calm the nervous system and reduce stress, a common asthma trigger. How to practice Buteyko breathing: find a quiet space, sit upright in a comfortable position, close your mouth, begin breathing gently through your nose. Focus on shallow breathing, avoid taking deep breaths. Let your breath become light and controlled. Create a feeling of air hunger. Gently reduce the amount of air you take in until you feel a mild desire to inhale more. Hold this sensation without stress. Monitor progress. Use the Control Pause test to track improvements over time. Benefits beyond asthma. In addition to asthma relief, Buteyko breathing can help with anxiety and panic attacks, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease COPD, snoring and sleep apnea, improved endurance in athletes.
But what also happens with nose breathing, as it raises carbon dioxide levels, it stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system. And often when someone's in an asthma attack, they get very, very fearful because it almost feels like they're going to die because they can't get enough air. And it seems a total contradiction to ask them to hold their breath. But holding the breath raises carbon dioxide levels. And when those levels rise, it relaxes smooth muscle, which opens the bronchioles. Carbon dioxide is a bronchodilator. Another indicator that everything we need, we have already got inside of us. So when someone gets a cold, the best thing to do is to eat very, very little, if at all, rest, but also gently climb a mountain and dive in the cold creek, just briefly. I think I was 7 seconds this morning. Emma's a bit braver than me. She's used to it more. I think she was 15 seconds. But you can get your body used to it. And what it does is it releases cold shock proteins. And those cold shock proteins have a dramatic effect on your immune system. So I think I mentioned about my son Peter, who had, when I looked at genetics, who had asthma. My father had asthma, my sister had asthma. She conquered at the age of 40 by learning the Buteyko method of breathing and totally eliminating, finally, all the allergens. But my son Peter, we conquered it when he was only 2.5. I did not know about the Buteyko method of breathing, but I used foods, and whenever he got a cold, I would just give him fruit. That's it, only fruit. We'd put him in the bedroom and one of the children would read stories to him while we all ate. And then we cleaned all that up. And then the child that read the stories, he could come out and another child would read him stories while this child ate it. Because if a two-year-old sees food, they want to eat. And if they can't eat, they cry. Then the asthma gets worse. So that's what we did. And we conquered his. He hasn't had an asthma attack since 2.5, and he's, I suppose he's about 38 now. And so the naturopath who I went to that helped me to know these things, he said to me one day, he rang me up when Peter was 5. He said, Barbara, I'm going to speak at the Asthma Foundation. He said, Peter was the worst case I've ever seen, and you conquered it. He said, you know more than me now. How did I become an expert on asthma? By treating my son and just observing, listening, and seeing what happened. And I think I did tell you the other day, we do the hot and colds alternating on his chest. That's not easy on an 18-month-old, but we had a child there with a whole pile of books. And every time we'd put the cold on, I'd get James to do backflips and keep him happy while we did. You get the whole family in there so we can keep Peter sitting to do the hot and colds. And we gave him an enema. And the enema made a big difference. Breathing distress went from 24 hours, which was a very difficult 24 hours, down to 5 hours. Now, the first 3 times he went into severe breathing distress, I just rushed him to emergency. You just fear for his life. His nostrils would flare at every breath, from the ears to the hips. every breath his body'd go like, it's terrifying for a mother to watch. But when I was in the hospital, they would give him Ventolin. I didn't see that it made a huge effect. In fact, what only helped Peter was for me to hold him. I'd sleep holding him. Finally, if he fell asleep, I could get something done. Because if he got upset, the asthma would get worse, and he would get upset, and then he'd get terrified, and gets this vicious cycle. So that's why I went to the naturopath. So that's how I knew so much. I just watched what works. But I found that the first time I did the enema and the hot and colds, the breathing distress went from 24 to 5 hours. Those 5 hours were still tough. Next time he got a cold, because within 24 hours of getting a cold, he would always go into breathing distress. So next time he got a cold, the breathing distress would be 3 hours. Next time he got a cold, breathing distress went to only an hour. Can you see what's happening? So I had to be very patient, because little by little he improved. And there was also a tea, and this herb was growing everywhere where I lived. It was called plantain. Another one is ribwort, and because it's got ribs in it, it's just a weed. We could probably find it growing out there, and it has a little seed pod like that. And you can get broadleaf plantain, and the broadleaf plantain just has a broader leaf, but it still has those ribs. And you probably even pull it out of your garden, you probably mow it down. But the seed pod on the broadleaf just has a longer, and they're like little dots around it. And did you know that those little dots are psyllium? You know, psyllium husks comes from the plantain. Well, I had read in my herb book that it was very good for the lungs. So whenever he got a cold, I would pour boiling water on half a pot of leaves. It'd go black. It was so strong. I'd put a bit of lemon juice and a touch of honey, and I'd get him to drink it, drink it, drink it. We'd get a fancy straw. We'd have tea parties. And I believe that little by little, this also strengthened his lungs. So when the naturopath said, tell me what you did for Peter, because Peter's the worst case I've ever seen. So I told him all the things. He rang me a day later. He said, it was very interesting. The people were very resistant at first, but when I began to tell them, he said, I just told them the story of Peter. He said they softened and they listened. And I remember the naturopath said, Peter's going to be as strong as an ox with everything you do. You should see him today. He's big. Anyway, the naturopath said, so the people were very interested, but do you know what? Everything I did, it took time. So many people, it's just much easier to give them a puffer than to get the hot and colds, to set up an enema. It all takes time. Takes time. But you know, it's well worth it. And what's the old saying? Choose your hard. And so the naturopath said, a lady came to me at the end of the meeting. She told me about her little boy who was also 5, same age as Peter. He said it was as if she was describing Peter, severe physiological asthma, which usually we are told there is no cure. He said this little boy is on cortisone, prednisone. He's on a glycerin enema every day, and he's been given 2 weeks to live. And the naturopath said, and look at Peter. I got off the phone and I sat there very quietly for a moment, and I thank God that I had discovered an alternate way to treat this serious illness, which people die from asthma attacks because the fear of not getting air. I don't know if you've ever been underwater too long, or if you've ever been somewhere where you can't get your breath. That is what I'm told it's like when someone has an asthma attack. And the last thing they want to do is hold their breath. But this Buteyko method of breathing is proving to be very effective. So first of all, you have to look at why the respiratory is there. And it could be just a house clean. And if it's a house clean, great, just work with it. Hopefully you get a fever, because then it'll pass very, very quickly. And so in 2021, we had a double vaxxed man attend our program. And on the second day, when the exercise coordinator went to get him to wake him up, he said, look, I'm terribly sorry. I know I had a headache all day yesterday, but I've just given myself a COVID test and I've got COVID. So for that first 24 hours, he was in touch with everyone. So half the staff went down, half the guests went down. But we said to the guests, we're a better place to be than at a health retreat. We're creating a fever every night. And we've got a mix that we used to give them. And this mix we call the flu bomb. So whether it's COVID, whether it's flu, whatever it is, this has everything in it that will help your body to conquer very quickly. Flu bomb, it's called. So the number one ingredient is garlic, and it's up to you how much you can take. I've been having about 5 cloves a day. Maybe you can smell me from where you're sitting. And you crush it. And the next ingredient is ginger. I've been having lots of ginger teas every day. And that's about 1/4 teaspoon of finely grated. And the next ingredient is cayenne pepper, as much as you dare. I've been having about 1/2 teaspoon. Some people can only handle a sprinkle. Some people can handle 1/2 teaspoon. And the next ingredient is eucalyptus oil. And eucalyptus oil, there's definitely an amount on this one. You'd think I, as an Australian, I'd know how to spell eucalyptus. 1 drop, that's it. Now, if you don't have eucalyptus oil, you could use tea tree, maybe even oregano, something strong like that. But the eucalyptus and the tea tree, they're very good at clearing the airways. Next ingredient is lemon. If lemons are falling off your tree, you might have the juice of a whole lemon. If they're $1 a lemon, you might have 1/2 a lemon. I'll leave it up to you. Honey, 1 teaspoon. Believe me, you could put 4 teaspoons in and it won't make any difference to the flavour. And 1/2 cup of hot water. So this is a great mix to take when you've got any respiratory problems, and it helps to clear the airways. So instead of taking an antibiotic, this is God's antibiotic here. You could try inhaling the hydrogen peroxide, but we find that's very, very effective. In fact, take 3 a day. Some people might look at that and think, oh, my stomach's going to protest with that. Well, drink it and then have a bowl of thick soup. Or drink it and have a couple of bananas, and that'll just help to coat it. So that's called the flu bomb, the famous flu bomb. So that's all you need. So when this man gave half the guests COVID, my husband got it, and then a little bit later I got it. Do you know if you don't get it, it's because you don't need a house clean. And if you get it, it means you need a house clean. First day I had a headache. Next 2 days I had a high fever. I never took my temperature once. I just knew I was very hot. So what did I do? I slept a lot. I drank a lot of water and I ate hardly anything, because I know that I live in a body that's got an inbuilt ability to heal itself. 4th day, if I laid down for half an hour, I could do something for 10 minutes. I was so tired. No wonder. When you have a fever, it's like climbing a mountain. So 5th day, if I laid down for 10 minutes, I could do something for half an hour. So 6th day, I'm just about back to normal. 7th day, I'm back on track. Feeling good, looking great, because my body's had a house clean. The CDC figures are that 99% of people that get COVID recover. So what's the problem? And the people that go down are people with pre-existing health conditions. The body will heal itself when you give it the right conditions. So I trust that you have enjoyed our lecture on the respiratory, and now you know how to treat it. We'll have a break now.